Welcome back, guys. So I'm having an issue and I am currently working on something in my garage. It's this Craftsman compressor. Now I've had this for a little while and I've replaced a lot of stuff. I've done the valve on the bottom. I've done this switch up here. I've done a bunch of stuff to this already to make it working and running beautifully. But one issue that I'm having now, which I've already figured out what it is when I plugged it in and I turned it on, everything works totally fine. It'll keep going all the way up until it needs to stop, whatever pressure I put it at. But once it turns off and I do my thing and I need it to turn back on, it'll blow a fuse. It'll just start really slowly. So I did some research and I found out that there's these two right over here. I believe this is the starter and this is the running capacitors. That's the word I was looking for. So basically they're like little tiny temporary batteries. I don't know, they're capacitors. And I thought that I'm like, hey, I can just replace this when we're good to go. But when I opened it up, I found out how this thing worked. So this is the starting position, and when the motor starts turning, this will push in. So this is a centrifugal, this is a centrifuge thing. So when it starts spinning, it's out and in. I don't know, it moves out and in, and there's a little switch in here. So it changes. When it is, if I just put this back together, it's gonna be pushed against that, which means it's going to be pushed like that. That disconnects, or that connects this little fuse down here, and then when it starts spinning and it moves, it then takes that off. So at least for a few seconds, it'll be running off the starter, and then after that, it'll swap over to the other one. This is all that's doing. But as you can see on here, the top part of it has snapped off. I have tried. I cannot find any replacement parts for, I mean, this is an older Craftsman, so you pretty much can't find any replacement parts. Can't find this new shroud. It's broken to all hell. It's old plastic. But this little bit right here, I tried to JB weld it. That didn't work. So now, well, new project. So what do you do when you can't fix a little piece of plastic inside your compressor? The most obvious solution is to buy a 3D printer and figure out how the hell to use it and put it together. So in this video, I'm going to be attempting to put it together and make it work and build the part. I hope this goes well. All right, so this is all the stuff that was in the box. I've got it all laid out here, but this is the Ender 3 version 2. This is all the stuff that's in the box. This is the, I guess, instruction guide. It's very small because it's many different languages. They do supply a how-to video on YouTube, which I think is also, this is the SD slot. I think they also have that somewhere in here. I have to go through, I think it's in here somewhere. The SD card has it pre-downloaded on there, how to put everything together. But you know, that's what I'm gonna make this video for and try to figure it out. So we've got that, our power cord over here, the main base with all the good stuff in it, all the arms, the motor. Yeah, we're gonna put all this stuff together. So I got all this stuff out of the box and just set it out here. So I haven't messed with anything. And one of the first things I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this off. I think this was just for shipping. So they've got the little clips that retain this thing on here. I'm just gonna take this off for now, just so it's out of the way. And this is the working surface that I'm gonna be starting with. I'm also gonna take this is my mouse pad. I'm gonna take that off just so I have a hard surface, because the most important thing when doing this is having a level surface. So I'm gonna take this off just in case maybe the squishiness of it throws it off. I don't know. And once that's done, I'm gonna make sure that the feet are level before we start working on anything. So you test all the sides, make sure there's no wobble or anything like that, which is good. If there is, the left and right side have 4 of these little Allens here. So loosening these up and tightening them will be able to adjust the bottom part. So that's also the first thing I'm gonna do. Now that I know that it's not wobbly, I'm gonna tighten these up, because through shipping, we're gonna go through and we're gonna tighten everything on here. And if anything does need to be adjusted, we'll adjust it and then tighten it up, because this thing has been shipped quite far and there's a fly in here. See? So I'm gonna grab one of my bags over here. It's got a little tool set. So I'm gonna grab the Allen, thinking that's the large one, but grab the Allen that fits on these side ones. We're gonna start to tighten those up. So I just finished up tightening those. All of those were nice and snug. I didn't need to tighten anyone except for maybe one. The next one is gonna be underneath. So if we move this and we take a look under, there's gonna be another set of 4. We're gonna make sure that one's nice and tight. That, I believe, is holding this together. So we're gonna make sure that those are nice and tight underneath, and then we'll move on. And if you do find any one of these that are loose, so I had one on the bottom that was pretty loose, and I tightened that one up. But once you get done tightening one up, go back through and go back through again. Because once you tighten one, sometimes the other ones will get loose because that one was pressed against there. It's just like working on a car and doing your lug nuts. Make sure that you go through multiple times to make sure when you tightened one, you didn't loosen the other one. So go through maybe 2 times. Once they're all nice and snug, then we're good. Now that all of those are nice and tight and done, we're gonna move on to the base. Now that's why I removed that from there, so we can really test out this. We can try to put some weight on all the sides. We can lift up, we can wobble it a little bit, and it's supposed to move across here nice and smooth, which it does. I don't have any side to side, but if you guys do have that, there are some points of adjustment. So underneath here, now this is on the left side. So if this is facing in front of you, you've got your little drawer here and your SD card reader and whatnot. That's what I'm using as the front. So if we come here on the left-hand side and we look under here, you can see there's 2 rollers. Now there's 1 point of adjustment on this one, which is the very bottom, those little nuts there. So if you reach your hand in here and you poke this and you try to move it up and down, this one's totally solid. There's no wiggle in there. And same thing with the other one, up and down. There's no wiggle in that. That's perfectly fine. If you do have that wheel able to move up and down, that means that nut has gotten loose. You need to tighten it up. Same thing on this side. As you can see, they've got the same thing. They've got both the nuts on the bottom, and also you can see right here, it is no longer round on this side. You actually have something there for an adjustment. Now you can make it higher or lower. It looks like someone's already done it. This one looks a tiny bit higher than this one, but everything on there's tight. If you go into your little baggie of tools, you can grab the wrench, the larger opening. You're gonna use that, come in here, and you're gonna put it on the inside, right on top, right up there, and you're either going to tighten it or loosen it. You're going to get it into the right place to where everything is nice and snug. So when you put any weight on here, it doesn't wobble back and forth, it doesn't go anywhere. Nice, smooth sliding. Next thing we want to make sure is nice and perfect is the belt. So as this thing, you move it back and forth, you get the belts to move where they're gonna naturally go. And you can see right here on my belt, it is pretty much right in the center. But if yours is like really far off, if it's way left or way right, only thing you need to do is come to the end and loosen this all the way up. Not all the way, but loosen it up enough to where you can actually move it around a little bit, because this creates tension. You can actually see the little guy in there. This creates tension on this belt. That will get you to 1 point. And also, if you look under here, there is a golden tab. Now that golden tab is locked into this frame. So this black thin piece, my finger's going across. That one right there, that little golden tab, that needs to be locked in to the right place. You see there's a little notch in there that it goes into. If you want to grab a tool, whatever it may be, a wrench or a needle nose, you can grab that and you can adjust it where it is in that little slot that it's locked into. Now, if you were to look on here and it was way too far to the left and you move it back and forth and you loosen it up a little bit here, you would go in, you'd grab that tab and you'd move it over a little bit to the right to where we are nice and even, right where we want to be. And you're going to tighten this up down here. You're going to move it around a little bit so it's going to come true to where it naturally sits. And that's about right in the middle. So that's nice. And same thing on the other side. There's a separate tab on this side. If you remember seeing that 2 golden tabs, it's the same thing. That second one is right in there on the other side, and you do the same thing. After that, we are all done with the base and making sure everything is even for now. So next up, I'm gonna grab these. These are our 2 large frame basey thingy doohickeys. So we're gonna take these out of the plastic. And once you take them out of the package, you're gonna have them both side by side. I also had this one, so the sleeve and that was on the inside of one of these. So if yours is packaged like that, make sure you take that out because it's not supposed to go in there. So you've got 2 different ones. You've got one that has 2 holes at the bottom. You can see the other one does not have that. So the one with the 2 holes on the bottom is gonna go on our left-hand side, right over here where these 2 holes are. And the other one has a few holes along the left-hand side. So you got those 2 that way. This one is gonna go onto the right-hand side, just like that. This is exactly how they're gonna go. So the one on the right with the 2 holes, the one on the left with the 2 bottom holes, that's exactly how they're gonna go. And then we just need to grab this bag. This is the M5 by 45s. We're gonna grab the 4, it actually comes with 5, but we're gonna grab 4. 2 are on the bottom here and 2 are on the bottom here. So those, you can see there's 2 holes on the bottom. We're gonna lift the base up and we're gonna put the screw through the bottom, or the bolt, I guess it's the bolt, through the bottom, and we're gonna tighten them up, but not too tight. We want a little bit of movement on there for when we actually put the rest of the stuff on. We don't want it so tight that we can't actually get anything else on it, and we're gonna have to loosen it up anyway. So here you can see, I've got everything on its side. I've got the 2 bolts going through to the bottom. Now I just want to finger tighten them so everything is nice and snug on here. Once those are nice and snug on there, so you get a little bit of play on there, just in case you need to move it for adjustment. Both of those are on there, sturdy enough. We're gonna move on to the next step. So we're gonna grab one of our pieces over here, and this is our next piece. We're gonna get the Z-axis limit switch. Now that I have it out of the package, this one is going to be a fun little adventure. So again, one of the included ones, so this is the next step down of our package. This is the Allen. I've got to loosen these up quite a bit, not enough for them to fall out, but these need to go in sideways, just like that. Not like that bottom one, not vertical, but horizontal. They need to go in like that to go in through the top channel and slide down to the bottom. So it's going to be looking like this. Once everything's done, it's gonna come down, it's gonna stop on there. But the instructions say to keep these horizontal like that, just so it has the most amount of grip. It's not the easiest thing in the world to get that slit on there and slide it down to the bottom and make sure that they maintain that. So I'm gonna slide it down and tighten these up just enough to where they're not easily flopping around like that. And then hopefully by the time I get to the bottom, they'll still be horizontal. There it is all the way down at the bottom. So slid this down and you can check, at least you can check the top one. If you look straight down, you can see that that nut on the inside is horizontal, nice and flat. And then both of these are nice and tight. This whole thing is now moving as one, but this is tight. Moving on to the next step, we're going to need the Z motor, which is the standalone little motor here. We're going to need these ones, which is the M4 by 18. There's just 2 in the package. And then we're gonna need this one, which is the sleeve with the little threaded rod. So where we just left off installing this switch, something I forgot to bring up, make sure that it is nice and flush against the side. When I initially put it in there, it was cocked to the side. So that's nice and flush now. And now that we're going to install this guy, it's gonna be the same thing. So it's going to be seated just like this. So seated down at the bottom, the plug is gonna be facing out, and this is a little mount that will go through there. Your 2 screws are gonna come through both sides, and that's what those 2 holes are for. You see both of those right there. Both of those holes are for these screws. So it's gonna go all the way through and thread through this. All right, so this is not gonna go anywhere. The only thing that's moving is this whole assembly itself because we still have it loose. So that is nice and tight on there. We also have it quite even, so it's not on crooked in any way. It's nice and flush. Next up, we're gonna take this out of its sleeve. We're We're gonna bring it over here, and that is going to sit inside there. Make sure that it's all the way down there on the bottom, and then we'll get these. Again, more Allens, so we're gonna get our Allen that fits that one. I don't believe it's this one, it's probably a step down further, and we're gonna tighten these ones up. Now we're going to move on away from the whole setup itself, and we're going to make the X-axis arm, basically, the whole contraption that goes across the top of it. So these are all the things that you're gonna need. You're gonna need the rest of these. These are the smaller ones. These were the larger ones. We're gonna need the belt. We're gonna need this contraption here. We're gonna need the whole motor set up. That's the bigger one. The other one was just the motor itself that we put over here. This one is the little tensioner for the pulley thing that goes that through, and the M4x16. These are all the things we're gonna need and pretty much get this whole thing set up really quick. First things first, we're gonna start with both of these brackets here. You can see that if I line these up at the bottom, one is a little bit taller than the other. And you can also see the whole difference. So this one has 2 at the end, this one has 3, 3, and 2. So this one has 2 on both ends, this one has 3. We're gonna put that one off to the side now, and we're gonna start to work with the longer one that has 3 at both ends. Now, when you look at it, you can see that these ones are further spaced apart, and these ones are closer. We're gonna start with this side where everything's closer, and we're also gonna start the side where this is notched out. If you look at the other side, there is no notch. So this is our starting location. Now this is the side that we're starting off with. Again, everything's close together, the one with the notch on the side. The one with the notch, where everything's close together, that notch, the reason why it's there is so it can go over that nut and bolt combination. So this is the whole assembly, QR code, switch, just so you're adjusted where everything needs to be. This one, again, everything's close together. We're gonna flip it around so it's now facing the left-hand side. That notch is gonna go right in there, and it's gonna sit directly on top of that. These 2 holes right here are gonna line up with these 2 holes. It's just that easy. So that's gonna drop on there, and we're going to grab these bolts right here, the M4x16, and we're gonna thread them through. All right, I just got finished up with that. Now I found the easiest way to do this was to put the screws in from the bottom and then put the rail on top. Then you have, down here, you have 2 little access holes, which is perfect. They already thought of this. That's enough room for you to get, sit down, to get your wrench through that hole and to then tighten it up. So this one is on here, nice and snug, both of those. So next up, we're going to grab our assembly here, which is what heats everything up and makes your filament nice and hot. We're gonna slide it onto the rail. All right, so grab your heating element, the extractor here. There you have your tip pointed down. Also, if you look at the other side, you've got 3 wheels. The one with the single wheel is gonna be pointing down and is going to get on to the rail this way. And if you look at it, the QR code is gonna be facing towards you. And that's how it's gonna go on. The wheels are just gonna pop onto here, and it's just gonna slide right on. Quite simple. Wheels just go in the groove. Nice and smooth. Once that's on, we're gonna move on to this bracket right here. This one's pretty simple to put on. We have 2 screws that are gonna go through here, but for the time being, we're just going to grab one of them and only put 1 screw. So these are the same screws as before, to the M4x16, I think it is. And we're just gonna grab one of those. So to get yourself measured up and oriented correctly, this is the one that we're going to start out with. So this one is going to go into the cutout of this. So if we turn this over, just like before, you can see that we have an indent. We have that cutout, something for it to sit into. That is where this one's going to go. So we're going to take this and we're going to place it on that little indent. It goes right there on that side. And then we're going to take the screw and we're gonna put it in on the other side. Just finished snugging this on. You don't wanna make this too tight because once we get that second one in there, that's when we'll make sure it's nice and even so it's not all weird and skewed to one side. So this is decently snug. It's not super tight on there, snug enough for it to stay in place. So as you can see, this is what it looks like now. And we've got that single screw going through there. So now we are going to move on to the next step, and we're gonna grab the belt. We're gonna take this out and we're gonna get this installed. I've got my belt ready to go. I've got the teeth facing down, and I'm gonna lay it up in the channel up here. Now, if you look at this, QR code and the heating element, all that stuff is facing me, just like so. And this is going to be facing, this channel is gonna be facing up. I'm gonna place it down in here, teeth down, and I'm gonna go till it stops. I need to go underneath these rollers. So I'm gonna have these rollers actually roll over that little nub. There's one and there's two. There we go. Now we can move it around, we can slide it. So that's where we wanted it. Now we have it in there, we're gonna slide it straight through. Now you can see that I pushed it all the way through on the inside. You see, it's right there on that little pulley that's got its own little set of teeth where everything grips up to the bottom of these. So we're gonna pull that through, give yourself enough, and we're gonna loop it around, and we're gonna go underneath that pulley, and it's gonna come directly down here on the bottom, and then we're gonna go through the channel here on the bottom. So once you push it through this way, you can see the teeth are still facing the bottom in this channel here. I'm gonna move this up so we're looking at it upside down. There we go. So we've got that facing down. We're going to put this, I'm gonna fling it down through the bottom here, and we're gonna pop it up just like the bottom of our base here. This is exactly the same thing. So this little golden piece is going to be sitting, if I can get it in there, we're gonna be sitting in, come on, you little, I mean, just like that. It's easy as can be, really. So that's gonna be sitting in there, and that's gonna be able to hold tension once it's pulled through. So now that I've done that, I'm gonna flip this back over to where it was, and I'm gonna check right here in the pulley, and that's good. We're still in the middle of that pulley. Just make sure you're not flopped off to the side, so when we actually do get tension through here, it's actually going to be carried through. Now that we have our belt routed through here, we've got it routed through one more place, and that is the tensioner for the belt. So the way that this is going to go on, you can see just like that. This hole is gonna go through here, and you've got a slit in the top, and on the back side is gonna be that large opening. So it's gonna go on like that. And if you look, the QR code is facing us. So that's how it is going to be kind of positioned when we're going through there. Now, this is a tough part. You can see there is a nice round little wheel in there that pulley is gonna go through, or that belt is gonna go through onto there. You can either just kind of drop it in there and try to finagle it around and pull it out, or you can completely loosen this up and take it completely off, route it through, put it back in and tighten it up. Either or, it needs to go through here, and that is the included screw, and we will get that as soon as I figure out how to route this. Just finished up doing that, and yes, you definitely need to take the pulley system out, loosen this all the way up, it just pops out, just a wheel, route it around that wheel, and put it right back through. Very, very easy. Tighten it back up, and now this is what we have. We can move this around. It's through the wheel on the inside. Now all we have to do is at least tighten this up a little bit. So this is one hand. Pop this in just like that. There's a little notch up here that goes into, so you know you're in the right place. And then once it's in there, I'm gonna take this screw and feed it through and get it nice and snug in there. And then we can grab our M416, go back to this on the other side. So if we flop this around on the other side, we still have that extra hole that needs to be used. Okay, easy enough. We've got the included screw on this side. Again, everything facing towards us. This is the included one that comes with this side. And then if we flop it around on this, we can see that we added that second screw. That one was already in, now this one's in. Feel free to tighten both of those up now. Make sure everything is flush. So this is one of the parts where I make sure everything is nice and flush, where everything's gonna be even. If this whole thing, if it's cocked up one side or the other side, then you know it's not gonna be even, but that is pretty spot on. So now I'm gonna tighten all that stuff up. Once tightened, we still do have this little guy that needs to be moved on over. So we're gonna move this back so we're looking at the bottom, and it's gonna be the same thing as this one over here. We're gonna grab it, we're gonna swing it up, and put it in the notch. And remember, if this is too tight or too difficult for you to get on, just jump back here to your tensioner, loosen it up as much as you can. I had to go pretty darn far, loosen it up as much as I can, and that will give you an extra little bump of room to get this on here. But now that we have it together, everything's where it should be, you'll be able to move this around a little bit, get it placed to where it should be right here. Again, same thing for this one and this belt. We want to make sure it's directly in the middle. So we're going to take a look at both of these. We want to make sure that they're directly in the middle. So I have them set up here. You could move them all the way to the end, but that's going to make them kind of sideways. We don't want that. I've got them directly in the center where I want them. Of course, move them around a little bit, make sure everything is where it should be. And then we'll give this a little bit of tension. This is really, really, really loose just because I got that. We'll give it a little bit of tension on there. So everything is nice and snug now. Feels good. And that's it. There's your little arm. Whee! It's like a little car. All right, it is showtime. So I'm gonna grab this QR code facing me, and we're gonna pick this up and we're gonna place it over the top. So these two rollers up here, they are going to go over this pole. And same thing with these two rollers over here. This big gap is going to go over here. So we're just gonna line it up like so. A little bit difficult to do with one hand. So we can see on the top end, I've got the right one in place. The left one, I need to come in a little bit more. This one's just a little bit more loose than the other one. There we go. That's right where they should be. It's got itself locked into place because this guy stopped it. So that one is going to come through here. So we'll pop that into place. There. Now everything is where it needs to be, roughly adjusted to where it should be. We'll move this a little bit more, but that is a starting point. So now everything is in the proper orientation. We're gonna come here to this screw and we're gonna just start turning it. We're gonna turn it to the right and it should be in this little brass ring in here. And it's gonna start feeding itself through, as you can see. So just down here, start turning this. There we go. And it's gonna start moving down the channel. Make sure everything was good here. It definitely wouldn't be if it didn't work right. So this should be very easy to turn. And you can see we've got the whole thing moving down. And if you really want to, as long as everything is nice and straight, just put a little bit of pressure up here. There we go. Very easy, moves down. Don't need to go down too crazy far. We're gonna get this stuff out of the way, all the cables and whatnot, so we can put the top portion on, which is our last little bit. All right, let's get this bad boy on. Let's grab the M5 by 25. We're gonna grab 4 of those, which we have here, and then this. It's going to look almost the same. It's gonna have 2 on each end. You can see that the ones with the board outside, these ones, are present. These are gonna be facing up. I'm gonna put those up top like that, just kind of let it sit there. And then we're gonna grab all 4 of these. I'm gonna jump up here and just put them straight through. And then of course, we're gonna snug these up once we get everything in place. And once we snug these up, that's as far as we're gonna go. We're not gonna tighten these because that means our whole frame is now relatively snug to where around where it should be. That was in the wrong place. So that means we have full adjustability if anything is off. So we're gonna start at the bottom to make sure everything is aligned. You can move it up and down to make sure everything is in its proper place. But right now I have it down at its lowest point and I'm gonna check the wheels at the lowest point. So I've got grip on each one of these wheels. This one's a little loose, but it's still making contact. This one's tight. This one's tight. So all my wheels are tight except for this one. It just rolls. It's not making any sort of contact. So stuff like that is what we're looking for to make sure everything is where it should be. So I've got the bottom of this whole thing loose and then the bottom of this one loose. So everything is loose for me to be able to tighten this, but for that one wheel to be off and everything else to be tight, I'm thinking that it's this bracket I'm gonna loosen up the screws on that one and try to adjust it so it tilts more to the right, just so this one starts to get grip. And once you've got everything where you need it and all the wheels are in a good place and it moves the way that you want it to, smooth, now we're going to grab it and we're going to lift it up to the top. Do the same thing, make sure all the wheels are turning or not turning. I mean, make sure they are all at the same grippiness, I'll say, at the top portion. So if you want to, you can grab it, or you can just move this little guy at the bottom and wait about 10 years to do that. And if you're still having trouble with it not being very easy to move, another point of adjustment is the T-screw here. So if you get these two little Allens and loosen them up and bring it up to about halfway, like to where I had it. If you bring it up, there we go, to about halfway, and then re-tighten these back up, it'll put it on a better course. Because if it was straight up and down like mine is, then it'll move up and down very easily. But if it's slightly crooked, it's gonna have a hard time once it reaches certain places. So over exaggeration, but that will make it a little bit easier on you. I just had to adjust mine because mine was not coming out right. So once you have finished up with all of your adjustments for the wheels and the tops and the bottoms and the everything, the only issue that I had that I didn't check before was the T-screw. So this one, so if you look at it like this, it's nice straight up and down, but if you look at it from the back, mine was tilted like way off. So all you have to do is take off the two screws that are in this bracket, make sure it is straight up and down and put it back up again. For whatever reason, I forgot to check that, so it was kind of off to the side. But other than that, everything is nice and smooth moving now, so that's exactly where we want it. Next up, we are going to do our display. So our little display here, we're gonna grab that. We're going to loosen up all the little Allens over there, so these are nice and loose. We'll be able to put them inside of here and tighten them up. The cool thing about this is you can move it to wherever you want. So just gonna take a second, there it goes. You can move it forward, you can move it back if you want it super far forward, or if you want it more mid. You can kind of move this wherever you want. This little rainbow cable, that is going to plug in right here to the back. So once you get that out of the way and actually plug it in, you can move it all the way back if you want to. It's up to you. And once you get it where you would like it, just come in on the side, tighten up all three of those, and they'll go ahead and adjust themselves on there. And there you go. It does have a little bit of wobble to it. That's because you can take this out, just like that. So those little things will go in here. It's kind of like what you mount on your wall. Go through here, and then it'll pop down into place. This part right here, this one's totally solid. Next up is an easy one. This is just the spool holder. So we're gonna get the bracket, and this is exactly how it's gonna orient itself on top of our 3D printer. It's gonna be facing just like that. And then we need also the, I guess, the spool holder itself. This is the bracket for it. And then these two, which are kind of our last two things that we have, is the M5 nuts and the M5x8 screws. So because these are the little adjustable things that you can put at the bottom of these, there's no drilled holes at the top. So really, you can put this spool wherever you would like up at the top. Most people usually put it off to the side, but really you can just put it somewhere up here. So once we get the screw through, we're gonna put the nut at the end, and then you're just gonna pop it on top of here. They've got to go horizontal to fit in there. Perfect. Pick where you want. Tighten it up. That's it for the bracket. Perfect. Now we've got that tightened up. We're going to grab this. We're going to loosen it up as much as it goes, and it stops. And then we're going to pull it out. You can see that's where the channel goes in and then tightens. It's not just a regular screw on. So we're just going to grab this, put it towards the outside. As you can see, this is the front of the machine. We're going to face it away and then put the other end on here, pop it in, and tighten it. Last but not least, we have these little end cap things. These are pretty easy to put on. You can just, right through the middle, pop them through that middle slot. They can go either top or bottom when it's like that. So you just put it in, squeeze it, boom, done. All right, we're down to the final few things that we have. So next up, we're gonna grab this one. This is going to screw on right in here. I guess this is the extruder part. So there, you're gonna get your filament. It's gonna run through the top, go through the top of here and come out right in here. Make sure you grab your wrench and tighten this one up. And once you have that in there, we are going to grab this. This is exactly like when I did the repair on my refrigerator. These are just like plumbing lines. So you're gonna grab this and you're gonna feed it straight through, push in as far as you can go till it stops. And if you pull back on it, it's gonna lock into place. You can see that thing. If you ever wanna remove it, you push this in and then grab this and remove it. But we don't wanna do that, so I'm gonna push it back in. Then if you tug out, you can see it locks into place. Now to make sure that it doesn't accidentally come out, we get one of these little clips. So we just pull on it a little bit so it separates those two out. And we get the blue clip, pop it in there, and that's a locking safety. So now it's just not going to come off unless you remove that. And while we're up here, we will go ahead and attach our little knob looking dude over here. You can see that it's not perfect circle. You've got that flat bit right there, and that is going to line up with the one on top of here. And that's pretty much it. There's no tightening or anything on that, which is kind of sad because this is kind of loose. It does the job by turning it, but it's quite loose. All right, it is finally time to plug everything in. Let's go ahead and start. We've got 2 wires down here. We've got a handful of wires that are coming from the main loom back here. And let's just get all this stuff started. So this one, you know which one it is. It says Z, and that one's gonna go up right here. It's not really much else it would be able to plug into. I just have to make sure it's the right way, which it's not. There is 2 little slits in there and then 2 in here. Make sure those are going the right way so you're plugging it in correctly. Boom, one down. Next one is we've got this one. This is N or Z. it's also Z. So this one is going to be our motor. All right, better view here onto the side. We're gonna grab this one. I said this one went to the motor. So we're gonna swing it around over here. Make sure it's not interfering with anything. It's just sweeping around. And it's going to plug in right here. So we wanna make sure we got that facing the right way. There it goes. And push that in. Now we are locked in. Make sure it's seated in there correctly. There we go. So that is everything down here. Now let's check the wiring loom. So we've got 3 left. This is from our wiring loom. Now these ones are pretty straightforward. One of them says X. The other one also says X, but you've got a big one and a small one. And then the last one is our E. E is for the extruder, which goes up here. So here's the plug. It's a long one. Go ahead and make sure we put that in the right way. There we go. And the other 2, you'll be able to see, if you look inside here, that one is a smaller one. So you see there's 3 pins, and this one has the 3 holes. The other one, the long one, is going to go at the bottom of the motor, just like we did down here. This one, you see the plug right down there, and we're gonna plug this one straight up into it. Oh, of course, make sure it's the right way. There we go. All right, and our last step is wire management. If you do want to do that, they include some zip ties if you want to route some wires in the right way. Just make sure, if you do, make sure everything is as far away as possible to make sure that it's not going to get kinked. So make sure this is all the way up, this one's all the way back. Does it work there? Also, if you move this one all the way forward and this one all the way down and all the way up, does it work in every situation? The only one that it comes supplied with is this little clip right up here. And we can just squeeze that in there. Not very easily, but that one is the only one that it comes supplied with. That's why they have zip ties for the rest. And now all of our wiring's done. Everything is set up. Make sure you have it set to whichever one right here on the back. Got basically a 240 and a 120, or 230 and 115. 240 is if you're using 240, most likely people in Europe. and 115 is me in America. So I'm gonna make sure it is switched over to 115 before I ever power this thing on. And here's a better view of it. As you can see, I am in the wrong place. I need to be at 115. All right, while I was back there, I plugged in the power cable just to the back. Now, that is it. That is everything. We just need to put the table on here and start to do our calibrations and adjustments to make sure the bed is level, which is definitely not, but that's why we do it. So we're gonna get this. I'm gonna peel this off to reveal its beautiful, oh wow, that's really sticky. That is so cool. So the textured side, that one's gonna go up. We're gonna place this directly onto the bed and then grab these clips that we had before. These are going to be the ones that secure it to this base plate here. And just, that's all they do, is they just clip on and grab it. Bam, done. I was actually thinking about offsetting it, so one over here and one over there. What would you guys do? Let me know, because I really don't know. I just kind of slapped them on there. All right, let's get this thing calibrated. So what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna move the bed pretty much up as far as it can go. This is gonna go over as far as it can go. And if you look under here, we're looking for that tip. We wanna go as far over as we can to as far over as we can. And we're gonna make sure that it is not hitting at its lowest setting. So this is all the way down. All we're gonna do is make sure it is not hitting. You can do a little bit of adjustment here, but you're gonna do that and you're gonna swing it over. Make sure that it's not scraping or hitting anything. So this one is pretty close. So we can do a little bit of adjustment there. Take it away, because that's not what we're doing. Just make sure, and then same thing. Make sure it's not hitting anything. We're gonna go all the way to the other back corner, Pretty much, we're gonna make sure it's low enough to where it's not hitting anything. We're gonna go in here, we're gonna turn it on, and we're gonna do auto home. That means it's just gonna calibrate itself. It knows where it's at on here. And then after that, then we'll get the bed calibrated. Once we're done with that, now we get to flip the switch, turn it on. It's alive! All right, so we're just gonna jump over to prepare. And then we're gonna go down to, there it is, auto home. And we wait for this guy to do what he needs to do. Okay, that didn't take long. It just found the one corner. Once we're done with that, we need to come in here and hit disable steppers. Once we do that, now we can move it around and we'll get to have this bed exactly where we want it. So now that that is disabled, we can move these around, which is cool. But what we want to do is get a piece of paper to go under here to make sure we have the right depth. All right, got a piece of paper. Now I'm just gonna go through here. You can see it's pretty far off. We're gonna go through here and adjust each one of the corners. So we're gonna start with this one. We're gonna move the head all the way over here, do that one, move the head there, each one of the corners until you can just get a little bit of grab from the piece of paper. So we're gonna put it under there, and once you feel a little bit of tension, like it's just starting to scrape it, that's perfect. But once you get that on all four corners, go around again, because once you adjust one corner, it's gonna throw off the other one. So go around multiple times until it's completely set. All right, so I've gone around many times, and I finally got all four corners the same. So you can see right under here, if I put this piece of paper in, I can just feel it starts to catch. It just starts to scrape that paper. That's perfect. You want that on all four ends, no adjustment needed. So once we do that, then we'll be able to go back to auto home. That'll put us back to where we were. Then after that, we're gonna go to preheat, PLA. We should be able to start seeing the numbers over here rise. There we go. Now it's gonna start heating that up. All right, it's almost at where it should be. So that's out of 200. So that's almost there. And the bed is starting to heat up. It's almost out of 60. While we're doing that, we already did the auto home. You can do it again. We're gonna disable the stepper, and we're gonna try one more time and make sure that everything is where it should be going through here. So that's quite tight on there. So I'm gonna go back through and I'm going to make sure all of these are where they should be. And once you're done, like I just finished doing again, auto home. And by this time, everything is going to be nice and toasty. You can feel the heat from the bed. Everything is ready to go. So now that our bed is totally leveled, we heated everything up, it's leveled again. Now let's grab, if you have your own, use your own. They include their own little set of test stuff. So I'm definitely gonna use this before I actually create the part that I need for my air compressor. Well, that is kind of sad since it doesn't come with a spool. That's just what we got. So we're going to grab our filament here. We're gonna bring it down, and right here where that hole is, we're gonna feed it through that hole. So once it's in there a little bit, this piece right here actually gets squeezed in, and then you can feed it in that way. So it goes in a little bit further, kind of hard to do with one hand. Once you get it in there, this valve, you're just gonna turn it and it's gonna push it all the way through. And if you're having trouble with this, all you have to do is just pop this knob off, which for me, it's really easy. And you can see exactly where this filament goes through. So when you squeeze this together, it loosens this up and you can find where it is. It needs to go in between here and pop into that hole, and then it'll just be able to feed itself through really easily. Once you get it to this point, it's super simple. You just pop this knob back on, and you can see that this knob is just turning this gear, and if you turn this gear, it's just gonna feed it through. So we're gonna turn this and keep turning it until we find it come out at the bottom. Where are you, my friend? Okay, I disabled the stepper again, so when you actually do see it come out, you'll be able to see it a lot better compared to it just being squished up over at the corner. So I'm just gonna keep moving this guy through. That little bit of resistance there, and there it is. So I'm gonna back off at the end up top, and that's it. We have fed everything through, and we've got it exactly to the point where we need it. So we just take that little guy off of there. All right, now we can do a test print. So right here, we have the SD card slot, and in here, we have an SD card, a little micro SD card inside a little USB adapter. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this one out because we're not adding anything to it. It should have some presets on here. So I believe it goes this way. Maybe, maybe not, it doesn't. So we're gonna try it the other way. With pins facing up. There we go. Now we can go over to print, and we've got cat. It's the only thing we got on here. So, okay, let's try the cat. Okay. I guess this first part is to, purge everything through. So it looks like that worked. And now it's going to start the kitty cat. Hopefully, everything is the way that it should be. Because right now, that doesn't look very good. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. You can see that's where it started. And then it kind of did the weird goopy outside. But after that, I'm guessing it did that on purpose, but it seems to be going quite a bit better now. It's getting the shape of our kitty cat. But I'll check back when this whole thing's done, and hopefully it looks decent. I might have to adjust some settings. Okay, so we've had a little issue, and this is our issue. So it was coming out basically perfect, beautiful, until it came unattached from the bottom and then just started spewing this before I caught it. So I did a little bit of research, and I think the thing that messed me up was I did not clean this. I've got some alcohol over here. I didn't clean it since I got it out of the package at all. So I cleaned it really well with alcohol, and I'm gonna try again. All right, it has finished. Look at the beautiful kitty cat. So I cleaned it. It still was, it was not working very well. So I went into the settings and I increased the bed temperature by 5 degrees. And I also increased the temperature on the head 5 degrees. And if you can see on there, I also did another trick. I did this all together, so I don't know if one thing fixed it or if all of it did, but I also did the glue stick. And I had 0 issues. I didn't see anything peel up as I was going through it, but oh, just like that. Look at this little guy. Very good quality. I don't even see any lines. Oh, I guess if I look really hard, I can see them. But look at this little dude. It's my very first print. Now I can go into the software that they use for this, and I can actually make the part now that I know everything works. All right, so it has been a few days. I had to get used to the program, and then I had to figure out there was another program. So there's a program to make these parts into sliceable things, which comes with the 3D printer. And then you also have another program where you need to create 3D models. So I had to kind of teach myself. It was a success after a few trial and errors. I made this out of ABS, which is supposed to be more resistant. So it's a lot harder to make, especially for beginners like myself. But I made the part. I hope that this is long enough because I do not know how long it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna throw this back in here, pinch that back closed, blah, 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 put that back together. And yeah, this was the whole reason why I bought it, but now I'm gonna make so much more stuff. And it is a success, which is fantastic because actually it wasn't a success until I made it a success. So I got the part, I made the part, I put it in my air compressor down here, and it kept tripping the breakers again, which really made me mad. But I took it out and I looked at the part that I made, that 3D print, and I saw basically a melted line through it where that centrifuge there was a lip on it that was actually eating into it. So what I think it was is I just made it too long. So I snipped off the top of that, and now it works perfectly. So I'm guessing the part that was in there originally was just supposed to hit that small part of the centrifuge, and the extruded part out, I guess it wasn't supposed to hit that. So I didn't know, but trial and error was successful. I made it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Watch more of my videos because now I can make car parts.